Culture evolves at the speed of light, just like your financial needs. When it comes to your money, Credit Karma keeps you in the know and ahead of the game. You can count on Credit Karma to keep up with your financial needs as they evolve. We'll help you monitor your progress and give personalized recommendations so you can make strides towards your goals and find your way to money. Make sure you're on the right track, no matter where you are on your financial journey. Intuit Credit Karma. Karma you can count on.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to When Reality Hits. Jack's here, and I got a very, very exciting guest today. Patrick Custer is in the studio with me today to speak on all things mental health related. You may have heard of him as he hosts the very popular and respected podcast, Rooted Recovery Stories. He's very well known for his contributions in the fields of mental health and addiction recovery. In addition to his public speaking and advocacy work with the LGBTQ, Patrick serves as a communications liaison and national director of alumni at Promises Behavioral Health, where he plays a vital role in supporting many people on their journey to recovery. So welcome. Did I do okay with that?
Yeah, you did great. A lot of people don't know. So we closed all of our Promises locations in California, and our headquarters is now in Brentwood, Tennessee, just south of Nashville. We don't have any in California anymore.
Oh, wow. That's such a popular one. I think that's the one that everybody kind of knows because I feel like it's a heavily celebrity.
And it's crazy how people, because we closed them back in, 2019, I think. But we're, Texas, all the way over on the other side of the country from there.
Are you bouncing back now to Tennessee? Are you going?
So I'll be out here. I'm filming some podcast episodes of my own over the next couple days. And then I head to Texas we're having a big recovery festival there. And I go home for a day and then back to Texas. So I bounce around all the time.
And when you say recovery, are you all things recovery, alcohol, drugs, mental health, OCD, addiction, like all things recovery?
Yes. So I would say about half of our treatment facilities treat the larger spectrum of behavioral health issues. The others are co-occurring for focusing on addiction with secondary mental health diagnoses.
Now, just to back up a little bit, I just got out of a facility myself, and I've gone to therapy before, and I didn't get much out of it. And the second person I saw burned me and actually went public and talked publicly about who they were like, oh, I'm Jax Taylor's, this. And then I just got burned and I didn't like it anymore. Then I just went to
I don't think anybody would. Nobody would like that.
I can't. It turned me off. Like they said, hey, listen, you should try therapy. And I was already turned off by it. I didn't want to go. I'm like, I'm not telling somebody my problems. I'm just not. I bury that stuff down deep. That's just how I grew up. And that's what my dad told me, my grandfather. Yeah. Obviously, it's a different time now. But obviously, when I went to treatment, I was going into therapy, and I really liked it because the person that I was talking to has gone through it. They weren't just reading, they weren't just graduated from Harvard in a psychology degree and read all these, expensive books. They were involved in the world. They went through it. And I respected them more and I listened to them more because they get it.
Well, so let me ask you this, as you talk about how they heard you, you felt seen, so much of the time it takes the individual truly and completely seeing themselves for the damage and the hurt and whatever's happened and whatever they've done as well, right? Like what happened to them first and also what, the damage that they've also caused. Because you can't feel seen until you see yourself.
Yeah.
I think the natural order of things is that takes place. And then, you're in a place where you just described somebody seeing you for the first time. And it sounds like articulating that.
So in terms of recovery, so you've been in recovery for how long?
I think this will be 14 years coming up.
And if you don't mind me asking, what were you struggling with?
Well, what got me in the door was alcohol and various forms of speed. Okay. And like many of us, my journey evolved over that time period of, the rest of things were trauma and different mental health issues that started to, you peel the layers of the onion back and, you find more and more that really the underlying causes and conditions.
Because the alcohol and the drugs, they always tell you, it's not the problem. There's other issues, and then we use that stuff to numb us, right? Yeah. So there are so many types of addiction: alcohol, drugs, gambling, sex. What would you say are the main tools to help a person stop the cycle of addiction?
Before I would say tools, I would say more like steps. It's just true. You can't get past if you don't first identify and accept you are where you are. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's the same situation for, mental health struggle. If you don't accept the space that you're in, what's going on, you can't start to ask for help. Right.
And I was learning to accept it. I didn't want to, but it was.
Man, I don't know about you, but I've had years into recovery for me. Some days you just wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you want to take back whatever acceptance and surrender that you previously had. And that goes for addiction and or like my mental health diagnoses, and just be like, this isn't fair. You just second guess stuff. And I think that's just the natural state of the human brain, that we tend to do that. But definitely the acceptance, surrender, and asking for help, I think, are the big first three.
Yeah.
Because you cannot do it I don't care who you are.
Right.
You can't do it on your own.
Right.
I mean, like.
It's tough for men, though. It's a different world. I'm nothing taking away from women. Again, I want to make sure that. But I think as men that are, at least I think our age, or we're a little older, we grew up a different way. We were taught different things, at least in my household, 80s and 90s. We just buried it. So it's just tough to ask for the help. And it was for me. It was just tough to say, I'm fucked up.
Yeah.
I need some help. Like, it took me till I was about 45 years old to ask for help, because I was so scared. I was so embarrassed. I was like, how did I get this far? How is all this happening? And where did it go wrong? And, it was just so fucking hard. It was really, really hard. Like, for me, I had to get on a routine. I need structure.
Oh, yeah.
I need to get up, make my bed, have a cup of coffee, go to the gym, check my emails. If I derail from any of that, my day's done. Like, even if I miss making my bed, it's over.
Absolutely. So all of those same things that you just said. And then I think one of the biggest things is connection. And again, not to sound cliche, but it's the truth. They say that, the opposite of addiction, and really the opposite of what severe mental health does to us, which is isolation. So the opposite of that is connection. And so various forms of that, whether it's, with recovery pals, or, just people that are healthy relationships, working on the ones that exist that are good for us.
That was my next question. When you were going through your changes, did you have to get rid of people in your life?
Yeah, but you know what? When you start working on the process of, in my experience, when you start working on the process of working on yourself and doing better things, for yourself, the people that aren't good for you tend to start falling by the wayside. When you start to heal generational trauma cycles, addiction patterns, and make better choices for yourself, that's no longer comfortable for the people that fit into your life like a puzzle piece. And that might not be the same for everybody, because there are going to be some clinger-ons in some situations. I don't want to write somebody else's story and, whatever. But in many cases, I think it's actually easier for those people. They let us go as we grow into a healthier state easier than we want to hold on to them and not let them go.
Right.
Because we're already changing enough.
Right.
Right? Like this whole world, you're going into treatment. They're telling you everything's got to change about how you do literally everything.
Right.
And then thinking about, ending certain relationships or just shelving them because you don't know if they're good or not. And sometimes that's what has to happen.
I'm starting to notice that in my group now, because like I'm usually the center of attention. I kind of hold the group together, but it's always because we're going out, we're going here. I own bars and restaurants, things like that. It's exhausting. It's exhausting to be the center of attention all the time. I would say like I'm the lead singer, and sometimes I just want to be the bass player. Or the triangle, and I'm learning to do that. And I'm also learning how to be by myself. I'm a very codependent human being.
So what sign are you?
Cancer.
Okay, I'm a Leo, which is all the things you just described. Hey, Leo.
It's where I'm comfortable, and I like to be it's
the natural state, the natural state of being. And that has been something that I didn't really start effectively working on until the latter half of my recovery, which is identifying how to be alone effectively with myself.
I'm not struggling with it, but I'm starting to. I do enjoy my alone time, but sometimes I get that urge, like who can I call to come over? Who can I call to go hang out with? And I'm just not even like, but just enjoy being alone. It's okay. I just have a hard time with that sometimes.
Sure. I think that along with like starting a new way of life where you're like, okay, I'm actually going to be introspective now, because you start to build these tools where you're able to have perspective and insight into your behavior patterns and why you're doing what you're doing. It causes you to ask more questions than you asked before, because your emotional intelligence is evolving. And so those times when I say you, I mean me too. When I'm like starting to look in the phone book and be like, whoever, whatever, what are they doing? I have to also ask myself, like, am I lonely, or am I not wanting to sit with whatever feelings are coming up right now?
That's a great way to put it, because sometimes I get in my own head, and then you start being like, I should be doing something. I should be out somewhere. And it's just like, I really have to really work hard and like fight my brain. I have to fight it and say, just sit down on the damn couch and read this damn book, or just, it's okay to be by yourself. Go to the gym, come home, go to bed early, take a shower. Like,
Yeah.
You know, and I'm trying to keep myself busy in the house. I just got this new townhouse. It's very big. I'm alone. There's noises. I'm by myself a lot, and I'm like constantly trying to.
Are you pretty sensitive to noise and like external stimuli?
I have to keep noises. I have to have the fan on, the TV on, the air conditioning on. I mean, the vacuum cleaner. A jet needs to be going on just for me to go to sleep.
Yeah.
I can't sleep to silence. That would be the worst
can't either.
thing. But I feel like I'm constantly in my home, and I'm OCD. Like everything in my house is like, okay, that's good. The remote control is like this. I can't. I'm constantly doing that, keeping myself busy so I don't get in my brain. Because once I sit down and I be by myself, that's when the problem starts happening. You know what I'm saying? When I don't have the structure, when I don't have anything going on, that's when I start to derail. And I'm like, okay, what can I do to sabotage my life right now? That's another problem I have, is my self-sabotage.
You know, as you describe that, I'm like, yeah, but what's so bad about sitting and, you know, because so many of us need to do that and sit with and you know, identify like what is going on in my brain, what is going on, what am I feeling in my body, and it's usually, I think with what you've described, you deal with. I think that typically the fallout is what happens afterwards, because there's a disconnect between that regulator that says, just because I'm thinking about this doesn't mean that I need to take action.
Yeah.
And that's not peculiar to bipolar. I mean, like that addiction. You know, yeah. I mean, like a lot of us deal with that same, like, I don't have that switch isn't naturally there. It's something that, you know, I've had to work really hard on.
Do you still find yourself working hard every day? Is there days where you're just like, shit?
Not to,
or is it a lot?
Like, so substance, I mean, as I drink this Monster, no, but as far as like not picking up a drug or a drink,
yeah,
that isn't difficult for me. But you know, something that we say in the rooms of recovery and in the field of addiction recovery is that a relapse occurs a long time before the first drink or drug is taken in a relapse cycle, meaning that, you know, something has taken place to off balance the healthy patterns that are you know, feeding someone's life and keeping it on the right track in the right direction. And so you know, I love that you mentioned all of those things that are like the structure, the exercise, you know, staying, all of those things, waking up early, having a regular sleep is so important.
Yeah, get my 8 hours, going to bed early.
Oh my gosh, and having a consistent bedtime.
Yeah, I love, like, I can't believe that, like, lately, since I got out, I was like, my favorite thing is to go to, if I'm in bed before 10, you know, I'm up at 7:45.
Isn't it crazy how I've never asked somebody else this, but this is my own experience, and I have to think other people are this way. But like, I can get the same amount of sleep and go to bed at midnight and wake up. But if I go to bed at 10 and get that same amount of sleep, I feel so much better.
So much better.
It's crazy. It's
crazy.
A completely different quality of sleep. It's hard when have people that you like that call you and say, "Hey, like, we're doing something fun," and you're going to have FOMO if it means
you're like, "Okay, I'm going to go. I'll have one drink, or I'm going to go, but I won't have a drink." And you know, like for instance, last night I had to have a meeting last night, and I'm like, "Well, I'm going to go, but I'm not going to have a drink, and I want to make sure that I'm in bed by 10:30 at the latest." And I did, but it's tough because you see your friends doing it, and they're like, "Oh, hey, why don't you just have one drink? Just relax." And then you feel like you're letting others down, and they think you're boring. Mm-hmm. You know, that's another fear I have. I have a fear of not being the fun one anymore, and I have a feel of like FOMO and being left out. And you know, like I was this.
What do you think would happen if you weren't the fun
I don't know,
one
and I struggle with this, and I had this conversation yesterday, and I'm scared that I've been this person, this quote unquote Jax person for so long. And now I'm making this transition in my life where I'm trying to, you know, get a hold of my anger. And now that I'm on medication, I feel like this medication, by the way, has been amazing. I haven't had hardly any anger issues, but I just also feel like I'm letting a lot roll off my back that I didn't before. And I feel like the Jax, I don't want to say character, but the guy that made me who I am, that I thought people liked, is going to slowly fade away. And people are going to be like, well, he's not as fun anymore. His quick wit is not there anymore. And we don't really need him anymore. Like, I just feel like, and I get worried sometimes about that because I feel like I've gotten where I've gotten because of who I was. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think that it makes so much sense.
Like,
and I think that
your life is scary, especially at my age.
I don't think that this is exclusive to you either in a position of you know, high visibility I think that, people confront this on different levels in their own life as well, because, it doesn't matter. We live in a codependent society. And what I mean by that is, for the most purposes, some people live in their apartment and don't leave it, and they work from, on a computer.
I love those people. You ever just go on Instagram and you see, man, go to a log cabin, be by yourself for a week. Mm-hmm. Ideally, I would love that. Like, wow, you see these cabins and like, just go away, go to Big Bear for the weekend, get away. I think in my brain, I love that idea, but then I'd feel like an hour in, I'd be like, get me the fuck out of here.
No, right. So I think same.
Right?
Like it would be.
You're like, this is peaceful. Okay.
For a certain period of time.
I would take a bath.
Yes.
I would go on a hike. All these things I do, but I just know it wouldn't work that way.
This is such a great metaphor for, I feel like I'm like vibing with a lot of things of how your brain works. For just how we both described ourselves. So we veered off on a trail and lasted just about as long as you or I would last in isolation. And I'm bringing it back. So
right.
where I was getting at with what I was saying is that, so, I had asked you about, well, what is the fear? What would you lose? And so, as you identified, well, they have this whole perception of who I am. And there's a lot of what you believe people love about you from this character and what have you. And I was drawing the parallel between the fact that, people in their own lives, there's absolutely a parallel to the average individual that doesn't have a certain level of fame, because we live in a society where we have connections with other people. We have a personality that's developed. I talk to so many people that say, there's a huge part of me that believes that I'm in the job that I am and I have the social status that I do because of either the charm or the people I know or the da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's all rooted in a certain level of imposter syndrome, right? So like, I don't actually deserve this. Somehow I got here because of a
yes. ...
Right. And so, and if I really got found out, whatever is underneath, which many of us are like, I don't even know what's underneath that layer of what's protecting me. And so many people have a Jax Taylor, just like what you're talking about. And they just don't have the however many fans it is that you do, right? And so that fear, I think, is super common. But like, what's beautiful is that, people spend $50, $100, hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes trying to do just that and answer that question, or have someone else answer it for them, which is the task of pulling that away and then identifying what's underneath. But it's so fucking scary.
It's scary. And it's now, it's been years, because I know I was such a completely different person when I came out here as opposed to right now. Sometimes I'm like, man, I miss that guy. Where before I, was on the shows that I'm on, I was such a different human being. And I felt like along the way I lost that guy, but you know what? Everybody was loving that guy, so we're going to keep it going, adding more layers on, adding more layers. And then I'm like, okay, don't worry about it. I'm just going to, I'll be this person, but I'll be able to check back. Now I forgot who that person was, and I can't get back to the person that my mother and father raised, and I sometimes I lost my father 5 years ago, and I just sometimes I look back, I'm like, I don't think my dad would like the person that I am today, but this is how I make my living. So, I struggle with it. I do, because there's so many things that I've done wrong that I'm like, man, I wish I would have, made the right choice there. But if I did made that choice, if I made the right choice, would have gotten me to where I am today. Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't think that would have happened. I think you can spend forever second guessing shit in your past and living in the like what ifs from that. And it will what is it going to do for you?
Nothing.
And I think that the answer, at least for me, has been fearlessly diving into the unknown and seeking, authenticity and vulnerability. And it sounds, open up Instagram or TikTok, and the mental health reels that you hear constantly are, how to be your authentic self, how to whatever. But it's talked about so much because it's so freaking. It is literally foundational to the core of what a real human experience. Like if we want to be fully self-actualized, right? Not the character anymore. Not the what do I have to think about because what's going to keep me going? What's going to keep you going is getting to a place where you're able to let that stuff go. And when you start to seek whatever's underneath and just a relentless pursuit of like pulling back those layers. What's next? Y'all, I found out this stuff about me.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is what I'm working on. And I mean, like, it is absolutely not only contagious, but magnetic to be a part of someone's. Everybody's been a part of your falling apart story.
Right. Yeah.
Let them be a part of the
pulling it back together story. Which,
but what's funny is putting it back together doesn't necessarily, like, that's what we call it, but it's not necessarily that. It's more of the pulling apart, because you're healing as you're, you know, pulling the layers out, right? Because those layers were there to protect you for as long as they could.
Right.
There was a purpose for all of that. There's a purpose for absolutely every single piece that was either your character, your dysfunctional coping mechanism, and while yes, it may have hurt other people, it was protecting the you that's on the inside of you as long as it needed to and it could, until, you know, it started spilling out over and damaging your life and the people around you. But, you know, you look back at all of those things, and I guarantee you can tie a straight line to how, you know, it was protecting you until you were ready to finally take a look. There are certain parts of you that you're not ready to look at right now, and you won't be ready to look at until those layers are peeled back. But it's layers for a reason.
I still have a problem being honest, not only with people, with myself.
Absolutely,
like,
that's where it started. For
admitting things.
That's for all of us, Jax.
You know,
I mean,
have a problem with that.
Yeah.
You know,
you're not alone.
My friends know that they look at me like, you're full of shit. Why can't you just be honest with it? And it's like, I just have a problem like admitting it to myself. You know, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassment, and it's just kind of like, that's a hard thing for me to do. What was your rock bottom, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I don't mind at all.
Like, where was you? Did you have to go? Did you do it yourself, or did someone say it's time?
Oh, they said it's time.
Yeah,
yeah, and I love that you asked me that right as we're talking about this, because the whole not being able to admit things to yourself.
Yeah, lying to myself, lying to other people, like not even keeping up with my own lies, not even remember what I said.
Yeah, I was 24. I'm going to try and do this in a bullet point fashion, so it doesn't go on and on forever. But so I was 24 years old. I was I'd been in nursing school, and I dropped out because I just couldn't keep anything together. At this point, I was doing I had stopped being life of the party. My drinking buddies I was even isolated from, so I was just on my own. My parents didn't. I was living at home and quote unquote going to college. Wasn't going to college.
Yeah.
I would put on my lab coat and my scrubs, still go leave the house every day, and say I know our parents, and they thought I was going to school, and I kept up that charade for over 1.5 semesters. Wow. The lies were insane that would come out of my mouth, but I was drinking around the clock. I mean, my addiction was so strong that I couldn't sleep more than 2 hours without waking up, because I would start going through delirium tremens. And it was rough, but I wasn't stumbling ever. You get to a certain point in alcoholism that there's no getting drunk anymore. It's purely keeping the DTs away. And I don't know if you ever heard the saying before for people like me, but it's fun until it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
And there is a crossover that happens for all of us, and mine was definitely that year. It just, when one thing led to another and began with the morning drinking.
Yeah.
And the everyday, the shame and guilt that I think accompany when you stop being able to complete the tasks of daily living,
right,
that are normal,
right,
not just aspiring,
just
goals,
everyday life
stuff that should be, most people do on a pretty regular basis. When you stop being able to do those things, it raises some red flags to people around you, and they start to know something's up, you know, and but I was at a point where they could have smelled me in the other room, because you drink that much and it comes out of your pores.
Right.
And so It was just very, man, I was a skeleton walking. And so I try to paint that picture because, I'd gone from I had been a political science major, super active in my community, volunteered, done everything, quote unquote, right. Very outgoing and what have you, to wouldn't even answer calls from my drinking buddies because they had started to make comments to me about being concerned about how my state of being and the survival of the disease in me was like, okay, well, that means you can't be around them anymore. You can't let them in.
Right.
And so I had literally isolated myself to the point where that was, that was my state of existence. And I would leave every day and I would go drink wherever. Thank God I never got in a wreck, hurt anybody or anything like that. And that carried on till February 16th of 2011. And I carried a lot of shame about this for quite some time. My dad almost died. There was a medical incident. He had like a giant pulmonary embolism, had been in the hospital for a couple days. But the whole thing of me, I knew I smelled the way I did. Like, it's not something you can bathe off of yourself, And I could not be in close proximity with family members that were going to raise, and so there were certain stories I told I can't remember to explain away why I was staying at my parents' house. I hadn't been at the hospital.
It's like you're telling these lies and they can see right through it. And as you're telling the lie,
Jax,
as you're telling
them, I
believed
it. Yes, and I had to. I think that the part of me on the inside, like I needed to think that the deep down inside, like the person that I believe myself to be, the good-hearted person, I needed to believe that person was still there. Like I couldn't reconcile those two things.
Yeah. I had the difference where my friends were asking me something and I was trying to BS them. I would stop halfway through the story and I'm like, I don't even know where I'm going with this story because I'm bullshitting you right now. And I'm just like, this is what's going on. Like I got to the point where I would just stop mid-sentence of bullshitting and be like, I'm just lying right now. And I would call myself out. I'm like, this is not what happened. This is what actually happened. That's where for me, where I was like, okay, it's time. Because now I'm not even believing my own lies and I'm trying to make someone believe my shit. But halfway through my story, I'm not even buying it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can they buy it?
Yeah.
You know?
No, absolutely.
And that's why I was like, I agreed. I'm like, okay, you're right. It's time to go.
So my siblings came to my parents' house like a couple days in. My dad, thank God, he's still alive and he made it through his medical nightmare, and they did an intervention on me and they were like, listen, we know you're not in school. We know that, you got two options. Mom's not bringing dad back to the house with you here. So you can go find somewhere else to live or you can go to treatment. And so I chose to go to treatment. But Jax, it wasn't until 2 weeks into being in treatment, like I could not accept that I was an alcoholic, even with all the things that were, like, I thought I had cancer. Like I had physical symptoms of, I had neuropathy, and was like losing feeling in like from my elbows down and from my knees down to my toes, which is not that uncommon for people who, both things with amphetamines and alcohol addiction. It really screws with your nerves and nervous system, but also your nerves. And so, it's at advanced stages like that. And so, but Google searches, right? Like I think that I had seen something about that, but of course, like that couldn't be it. It had to have been cancer. So in my head, I thought at the time I was like, I just thought I had cancer. I wasn't doing anything about it because I couldn't, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I'm in treatment, and it was 2 weeks in till they had I call it the, come to Jesus moment where, they, my parents had called them and been like, the sheriff showed up at our house and there was a warrant out for Patrick's arrest.
Oh, geez.
Hadn't been honest about, like, they ask you when you go in, do you have any legal stuff that we don't know about that we need to know about? And I'm like, no. Yeah. I did.
Yeah.
And they put their foot down. They said, Patrick, you haven't acted like you want to be here since you got to treatment. You're in a group full of guys that they are behaving in a way that they want to be here. You're the bad apple out of the bunch, and we don't know what we're going to do with you. And it's scary.
This is you while you're in there, and you were like,
yes,
just not.
It scared the shit out of me at this point. So you go when you're in AA meetings or any type of 12-step meeting. We introduce ourselves, and then mine specific ones are you're not supposed to say the name in press, but I'm Patrick and I'm an alcoholic.
Right.
But my pride was in such a state, and I could not surrender and accept the fact that I was an alcoholic that I thought I was winning by taking the I'm un out of that statement, and I would just say Patrick alcoholic, because we had to introduce ourselves in such a way, right? Like and so that's the level of non-surrender, non-acceptance and pride that I had going into treatment, and took me that long. But I thank God every day that 2 weeks in, that burning bush or rock bottom for me, because that was truly, I think, the spiritual experience of rock bottom that forced me to that moment. The rest of that day, I was so scared, and all the defense mechanisms that had been holding up my fragile little ego started to melt away. And what changed then was, from then on, I was like, okay, I don't have any of these answers, and I'm scared. But not scared like I'm going to go operate out of fear. Scared as in, I'm scared, therefore I have to ask for help. And what that looked like for me was every day asking the staff, asking others that had been there longer if they had recommended. I mean, I had to reframe my entire existence, way of being, and how I showed up in life in general.
Same. I like I said, we're very similar, as if where we got there, didn't like it, and then I started to be like the leader. Like I started really enjoying it. Like once I like I said, surrender is probably the right word to use. Once I surrendered to the fact that, okay, I have a problem. Now let's just go face first, and let's be honest about it, and let's do the work instead of fighting it. Like you hit a point where, you're just like, you just let it go. There's like a switch, right? It was like a switch at some point during that thing where you're just kind of like, you turn it around, you know? And I think you and I kind of share the same thing. Like, we just kind of said, okay, we're going to surrender to it. And it was like, once you let yourself surrender, it's like, that's a great word to use. I say let go, but surrender is it's just so, I don't know. It's a beautiful thing.
It's difficult
to
put words
to. I feel like I'm losing my
'cause
masculinity when I said that. I feel like I'm turning in such like a sap when I say this, but it's just a very beautiful thing to let yourself go. And it's hard for a lot of people, especially, I keep saying men, but it is hard for a lot of men to let themselves go and be vulnerable and be emotional. It's very, very difficult, especially for me.
I think what I would say to that is that I think that it just letting go looks so different for men and women, because for men, for a lot of men, it's like what you described. Letting go meant embracing and or showing your emotions more. For women, and not to speak for women, but just in my experience, because I've worked in the field for so long, a lot of it is being able to get honest about trauma that's occurred, and a lot of it is that, because there's a lot of stored up stuff that I think that it is easier for a lot of females to be in touch with their emotions and embrace those more, but the stuff that comes in conjunction with that is the what has either happened to them or what's going on and home, things that they don't feel like they can be honest about. So like, I think the letting go, just, it looks completely different for many people in the different gender categories.
Well, this has been awesome. We've learned so. I definitely want to have you back again. For someone listening to this podcast today and really wants to get some help, can you? Where can they go? Can you just get like some ideas to where they can go or what they can do?
Promises.com.
Promises.com.
Go to promises.com, and we'll, if you're a chat person and don't like to talk on the phone.
What if people don't have a ton of money? What do you suggest? Meetings and things like that? And
I would absolutely suggest meetings. If it's mental health that you're struggling with, you can Google what mental health groups, and then what types of things you're struggling with. And even if it's, I'm struggling with sadness, is there a a 12-step group for that.
Right.
Or I'm struggling with da-da-da-da-da.
I mean, anything, right? Sex, gambling, drugs, alcohol, mental health, anger.
And you can find a 12-step group. I would absolutely suggest that. I would suggest that you need to find, if you don't feel like you have anyone in your life that is safe enough to tell, do your best to find someone that you can tell. Do not keep whatever it is that you're struggling with to yourself. Get honest with someone about it. And then ask for help. Ask for help from someone. As far as the issue of payment is concerned, it just depends on where you are. There are nonprofits in every city that do good work.
A lot of insurances,
Medicaid,
people don't know.
Medicare,
Insurances
yes.
cover a lot too, and people don't know that. I didn't even know that until I found out later. I thought it was like, okay, this is strictly a cash thing, but a lot of insurances cover it too. And there's a lot of, like you said, like aids out there too. But I just wanted to ask you. But I just really want to commend you for being so open about yourself and having so many others on your podcast share their struggles. It's really an incredible that you use your platform to empower so many others that have these difficult conversations that are that aren't easy to have, and you do it really so seamlessly. Actually, I've listened to it, so I just wanted to say thank you. As someone who battles with many things on a daily basis, it really helps me to I'd say listen to a lot of your stories and not feel so, I guess, alone would be the best. Yeah, not feel so alone. I'm sure, a lot of people feel the same after listening to your podcast. So again, it was such a pleasure having you on. Please make sure to listen to Patrick's podcast, Rooted Recovery Stories. And you can find him on Instagram at Patrick_Custer. That's Patrick_Custer, Custer. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks,
I really, really enjoyed having you. Hopefully you can come back again.
Absolutely.
And have a great, great day.
Thank you. You too. And everyone else.